Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing some more Historic Brawl, this time with Lathliss, Dragon Queen. She is 2 red and 4 for a 6/6 legendary dragon with flying. Whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, you get to create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. For only 2 mana, you can give all of your dragons +1/+0 until end of turn. So really nice dragon tribal build around here. If you get Lathliss onto the board, then every dragon you play while she's out is going to spit out a friend, and a big one at that, a 5/5 flyer. So a super impactful card. Even if you're not trying to trigger the ability to spit out more dragon tokens, she can very quickly end the game just by buffing your whole field for a ton pretty cheap. So Lathliss Dragon Queen is the deck today. Let's go through the 99. We've got a Dragon Master Outcast. This card is a lot slower than it looks. It's not really a 1 mana 1/1 because it doesn't really do anything until you have 6 or more lands, but at that point getting a 5/5 flyer every single turn is a really good deal. Minion of the Mighty is a way to potentially cheat our dragons out once we're attacking. This isn't really going to trigger till the mid game, maybe turn 5-ish, once we have a 3/3 flyer and a 4/4 flyer out from turn 3 and turn 4. But it's still going to be good because this deck will often have a lot of 5 and 6 mana dragons just clumped together in the hand. Minion of the Mighty, a really great way to get those onto the board and attacking. We have Mox Amber in the deck for some mana acceleration. We do have quite a few legendary dragons and some Sarkhan planeswalkers. This will add mana off of any of those. Not really a 0 drop though, since our legendary cards start at like 3 mana, so on average this won't be tapping till turn 4, but still a good mana accelerant because we can dump it out on turn 4 for free, the same turn that we're playing just any 4 mana dragon, and then it will still help accelerate us to our 5, 6, 7 mana cards. There's Dragon Hatchling. This is just a small little dragon to get on the board early. Dragonkin Berserker, potentially giving us multiple dragons once per turn. With that boast ability, this is one of the times that we're actually going to be reducing the cost of it quite a bit just by having a bunch of other dragons on the board. So sometimes if you're really lucky, you can even just attack in with this and only pay maybe 2 or 3 mana to spit out a 5/5 flyer, which is a really good deal. Dragon Lord's Servant, pretty self-explanatory, reduces the cost of the dragons, helps get them out cheaper. Same with the Fearsome Whelp here, just helps get these really expensive flyers down early. Magda, very similar, going to be mana accelerant, spitting out treasure tokens. If we're really lucky and we get to tap her 5 times, then we could just put one into play for free, but we don't have enough dwarves in the deck for that to really be our game plan. Kind of just a mana accelerant here, spitting out treasure tokens. Smoldering Egg is a nice cheap little dragon egg to get another dragon on the board towards the cards like Dragonkin Berserker that care about the number of dragons. We don't flip this super often. We don't have a ton of instants and sorceries, but as always, when we do, Ashmouth Dragon is going to be quite a beating. Metallic Mimic, very simple tribal card that slots into pretty much any tribal deck. And then we have some nice utility removal spells. Abrade's particularly good in Historic Brawl, in my opinion, for being able to clear out early creatures from your opponent or blow up their mana rocks like their Arcane Signets, their Cold Steel Hearts. A lot of decks are going to be playing cards like that. Blowing up a Chromatic Lantern with this is a really excellent deal, so I really like Abrade in Historic Brawl. We also have Dragon's Fire for flavor, and it is also really good removal in this deck. For 2 mana, you're getting like 4 or 5 damage on average, because we've got a lot of 4 power plus dragons to reveal. Org of Dragonkind, another card that slots perfectly into any dragon deck. It accelerates your mana, and it also, once you're late in the game, you've got nothing else to do, you can crack this to pull the best dragon out of your top 7. Royal Eruption, just another little flexible removal spell. Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Guardian Idol, and Mind Stone are all just 2 mana ramp / accelerants to help with our big old clump of 4, 5, 6 drops. At 3 mana, we have Bone Crusher Giant, just fitting in with all of the kind of 2 mana versatile removal. So this is sort of a 2 drop because we're using it mainly for Stomp that just has a 4/3 like glued onto the side. Very good card in any red deck, in my opinion. Dragon Egg, another nice cheap dragon. Gadrick, just a nice cheap dragon. Combos well with our Magda if we're super lucky. Sarkhan's Whelp is going to combo with the couple of Sarkhan Planeswalkers that we have in here. There are multiple Sarkhans that synergize well with dragons, so we have 3 of them in the deck, I believe. Dragon Speaker Shaman. This is one of the best cards in the deck, I would say. Reducing the cost of your dragons by 2 is absolutely huge. You can play Dragon Speaker Shaman turn 3 to be able to cast Lathliss on turn 4, and getting Lathliss out early is exceptionally good because her ability when other dragons enter the battlefields is incredibly powerful. The only issue with it, I would say, is that she's quite an expensive card, so usually she's going to be one of the last dragons that you cast. But if you have great acceleration with your mana rocks like Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, that kind of stuff, or you can reduce her cost with something like Dragon Speaker Shaman, then you can do kind of the deck's game plan and get her out as early as possible, so every single dragon you play, you're getting a lot of power on the board alongside of. So Bloodline Pretender and Faceless Agent are both more of these very self-explanatory shapeshifter cards that fit into any tribal deck. Chaos Warp is a removal spell I would recommend for any Historic Brawl deck in the same way that it gets played in any commander deck. If your opponent has a really big threat out, if they play an Elesh Norn or something like that, using this to exile that is always going to be a good deal. Sure, they get a random card from the top of the library, but if you're killing one of the scariest cards in their whole deck, it's very unlikely that they get something back anywhere near as good as what they had. Plus, there is always the fun backside of this card where you could just like target your own mountain in the late game and try to flip a 7-drop dragon, get lucky with that. Glorious End, I don't know if I should be running Glorious End, but it is a really fun card that I like to play around with here today. This will end the turn, but then at the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game. So it's kind of an instant speed, take an extra turn spell. The way that you use this is once you have lethal on the board, say you attack during your turn with 10 power flyers, and then they have 10 life left. Then once you go to their upkeep, you just end the turn before they even draw a card per turn, and then obviously it goes back to your turn. You attack for 10 again. Hope they don't have Settle the Wreckage or something, because if they do, you will lose in the end step. There's Slaying Fire, not Flyer. Just another removal spell. Spit Flame, another actually excellent removal spell in this deck, because this is kind of like a Slaying Fire that could just keep coming back from our grave as we play our dragons. There's Sarkhan, very synergistic dragon tribal card. It's a mana accelerant for dragons. It's a way to ditch extra lands in the late game to draw more cards, and a way to spit out even more dragon tokens if Sarkhan makes it to the ultimate. Dragon's Hoard's a pretty great mana rock, the only issue with this one being that it's a 3-mana accelerant. We would far prefer 2-mana accelerants, but this one gives us a lot of flexibility alongside that. It gives us card draw from all the gold tokens we'll be getting as we cast dragons. Herald's Horn and Icon of Ancestry are a couple more of these generic colorless tribal cards that fit really nicely into any tribal deck. Moonveil Regent, just a powerful 4-mana, 4/4 flyer. The other abilities don't matter too much to me. Leyline Tyrant, though, has other abilities I'm very interested in, being able to bank our mana. Now our unspent red mana just stays as long as Leyline Tyrant is around, and whenever they blow it up, we can just spend all that mana into its ability and just shoot any target for a bunch of damage, so really fun card there. Maniform Hellkite, a 4/4 flyer that makes little hasty dragon illusions alongside it when we're casting our non-creature spells, so can really hit in for a lot of damage really quickly. If we play this turn 4 and then just any Sarkhan the turn after for anywhere from a 3/3 flyer to a 5/5 flyer, that'll be a really big hit. Opportunistic Dragon is a 4-mana 4/3 flyer at worst, and at best it's going to steal one of their mana rocks quite often just to shut that card down. And sometimes our opponent will even just have random good humans, so we'll just steal their human to shut that card down. Skyship Stalker is a very flexible dragon. It can be a haster, it can be a first striker, it can get fire breathing. Thunderbreak Regent is one of the better dragons in the whole deck, makes it so whenever any of them get targeted, we're dealing 3 damage to our opponent. So a lot harder, or at least a lot more painful for our opponent to use targeted removal on our cards. Townraiser Tyrant will quite frequently have a target in Historic Brawl. Unless our opponent is playing a mono-colored commander, you expect to see a lot of non-basic lands from opponents. So this just gets out another 4-mana 4/4 flyer, which is exactly the power toughness we're looking for at that cost, and gives us a really nice ability to burn our opponent as long as they're keeping that non-basic land on the board. Varric's Bladewing's a nice flexible dragon. Another 4-mana 4/4 flyer that we're perfectly happy with, but if we draw it later, then a 7 mana for 2 4/4 flyers is an even better deal. We've got Sarkhan Wanderer to Shiv. This is a Sarkhan that can make the rest of our dragons in hand cheaper. It can also conjure a bunch of Shivan dragons into our hand if we've run out of them, and it works as a potential removal spell, -2 for 3 damage to a creature, so pretty flexible Sarkhan there. Draconic Intervention is really nice. This is potentially a one-sided board wipe. We get to exile an instant or sorcery from our graveyard to deal X to each non-dragon, where X is the card's mana value, so this won't be blowing up too many of our creatures. It'll still blow up our Dragon Speaker Shaman or Minion of the Mighty, that kind of small stuff, but none of our dragons will be affected by this. The only issue with this card in this deck is we don't have a ton of instants and sorceries, as I said before, for the Smoldering Egg, but I think the upside of being able to damage all of the non-dragons is still high enough for the downside that this card isn't always going to do something. We have Lightning Shrieker. This is a nice Lava Axe style dragon. Just slam this down, hit your opponent for 5, shuffle it right back in. Rapacious Dragon is a way to accelerate into our more expensive cards. We don't have too many cards that cost more than 5 here, so I'm a little curious about this card. Maybe it shouldn't be in the deck, but the other thing it does is if we have a hand where we're like flooded with 5-mana cards, those 2 treasure tokens will also help us potentially like play a 5-mana card and a 3-mana card in the same turn next turn. When we play our 6th land and have 2 treasure tokens, something like that. So it doesn't necessarily only help us cast 6 and 7-mana cards. It helps us cast 2 cards in one turn more easily later. Goldspan Dragon is definitely better than the Rapacious Dragon, but it's not really an either-or situation. We can run both, but yeah, Goldspan Dragon, easily just an excellent card, was always going to go in this deck. Gives us a treasure token every time it attacks, and that treasure token provides 2 mana as long as the dragon's on the board, and it has haste. Demanding Dragon, just really big stats for the power. Glorybringer's a removal spell and a haster at the same time. Purifying Dragon, another bit of a wonky dragon, but there aren't that many dragons on Arena, so we are running a couple of the wonkier ones. 5 mana for a 4/3 flyer. It only does 1 damage to a creature whenever it attacks. That's not going to kill things often. It's the poor man's Glorybringer, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get some value off it. Maybe now and then we'll kill a 1 toughness card. Skargan Hellkite is super sweet. 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer, or 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer that has an activated ability for 4 mana to start doing 2 damage as we please. Terror of the Peaks is incredible. Really like this card. Whenever any other creatures enter the battlefield under our control, we get to start dealing damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So if we play Terror of the Peaks and then next turn we play a 4 mana 4/4 flying dragon, we're getting to deal 4 damage wherever we want. Use that as a removal spell, use that as like a Lava Axe to just dome our opponent for 4. Super excellent. Terror of the Peaks is a really nice card, and even if your opponent has removal for it, it's still going to shoot them for 3 damage because that removal spell will cost them 3 extra life. Sarkhan the Masterless can spit out some dragon tokens as well as attack as a dragon himself and protect us really well. With a lot of dragons out, it's going to be pinging our opponent's creatures for a ton of damage each time they try to attack us. So Sarkhan is a card that's really going to be needed to be dealt with by removal spells like exile target planeswalker, because otherwise it'll be really hard to attack Sarkhan. If we just have 3 or 4 dragons out, we're dealing 3 or 4 damage to their creatures every time they attack. Vanquisher's Banner, another just staple for any tribal deck. Free Jam Regent. We have a few artifacts to improvise this out, but mostly just a big old 4/4 flyer with some fire breathing added. Inferno of the Star Mounts, a better 6 mana flyer with some fire breathing added. It can't be countered. It's a 6/6. It has haste and it has fire breathing. And if we ever manage to fire breathe it all the way up to 20 power, we can just deal 20 damage to any target, including our opponent. So that's kind of a magical Christmas land dream there if we ever have just a boatload of mana. Terror of Mount Velis is a massive win condition. It's kind of like Embercleave slapped onto a creature. Embercleave most of the time is the kind of card that you slam it onto the board, give that creature double strike trample. Your opponent dies pretty much immediately, or at the very least they die the next attack. Terror of Mount Velis is just like, this hits the board and then your opponent dies. Because this is the kind of deck where all of our creatures are going to be pretty beefy flyers. Mostly 3 to 5 power flyers, and giving double strike to a bunch of creatures that are hard to block and pretty decently high in power is often just going to kill your opponent on the spot. So Terror of Mount Velis is sweet. Dracuzeth Maw of Flames, definitely a lot slower than Terror of Mount Velis, but definitely more of a standalone threat. We don't need a board state for this card to be good all alone. The second it attacks, it's presenting a massive amount of damage. That could be 11 to their face, 7 damage from its power, and 4 damage from its ability, as well as shooting 2 of their creatures for 3. Really nice card. There's Embercleave. I love just slamming this into every red deck because I'm just a big aggro doofus. Sundering Stroke, also another card I love slamming into any mono red deck. A bit expensive at 7 mana, but 7 mana to do 7 damage to 7 targets. Or not 7 targets. That would be insane. 7 mana to do 7 damage to 3 targets. It's still really good. That's 21 damage for 7 mana. So basically this is 7 mana, deal 7 damage to your opponent and basically kill 2 of their cards. 7 damage is enough to kill massive things. It can kill Praetors like Jin Gataxias and Elesh Norn. So pretty much 2 removal spells and 7 damage to their face all in one card. Sure, it's a bit expensive, but that's a massive impact. So that is the deck. The only non-basic in here is Castle Embereth. Maybe we should have more. But I don't really want to play any comes into play tapped lands, so I don't really want to run any of the cycling lands in here. So yeah, that's the deck. And I guess we could play like Ramunap Ruins. Alright, there we go. Slightly fancier mana base. Now we have Ramunap Ruins alongside our Castle Embereth. Ramunap Ruins, I'd play it in any deck that doesn't care that you're tapping for colorless now and then, because even by itself, later in the game, you could just sacrifice this to do 2 to your opponent. So if your opponent ever ends up at 1 life and you're like, oh no, I don't have any way to get that damage in, sometimes top decking Ramunap Ruins instead of a mountain can win you the game on the spot. So really nice card. This was a standard mono red staple for the entirety of its existence in standard. And yeah, I'd be happy to play that in here, just spice up the mana base a little bit more, but I really don't want to play any lands that enter tapped that often. Maybe Down to the Bugbear can come in here too, but again, this is one of those lands that enters tapped, and it enters tapped at the time where you really want it to enter untapped. Like, a land entering tapped on turn 1 doesn't matter too much in this deck. You know, we have 2 1-drops. So if Den of the Bugbear was the other way around, where it enters tapped unless you control 2 or more lands, then I'd be pretty happy with it. But the fact that this enters tapped if we draw it as our 4th, 5th, or 6th land, that's a pretty big selling point. Pretty hard to do. So anyways, that's a look at the deck. Let's get into some games and hopefully spit out a bunch of dragon tokens. So here we are in game 1 against Nethroi, Apex of Death. This is a card that is going to pull out a bunch of cards from their graveyard, a very Reanimator kind of graveyard value sort of deck, so I'd expect some self-mill and stuff from them. This is going to be a mulligan for us, a bunch of 5 mana dragons. This hand's way better. This is exactly the kind of stuff we're looking for. We have that Dragon's Lord Servant in the early game to make our late game dragons cheaper. Even Sarkhan does the same, making dragons perpetually cost 1 less. Plus, we can even conjure some more Shivan dragons if we run out of things to do late game, so very happy with this hand. Get that Dragon Lord Servant out here, turn 2. Hopefully not a ton of removal from our opponent, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them just blow up the Dragon's Lord Servant here. So excellent mana base from our opponent, all non-basics so far. Looks like they're going for snow lands. Ooh, a 1 mana Fearsome Whelp, pretty sick, but I think... I mean, I play Fearsome Whelp, and if they don't kill our stuff, then these both cost 3 next turn. Which is wild. We play this for 3, and then we play the other for 3 off the Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, that might be more explosive than just playing a Town Razor Tyrant. Although, you know what, I'm still just going to play Town Razor Tyrant because it puts a lot of pressure on them. Now we have 4 power flying out, and we're going to be damaging them each turn unless they want to sack this land, which I doubt it this early in the game. So we're going to hit for 2 damage a turn from the land, plus 4 damage in the sky, and we can still just play Goldspan Dragon and then play Fearsome Whelp off of it. Even if we're not getting to Goldspan Dragon, Purifying Dragon here. Ooh, what is this? This is an Alchemy card. 4 mana, 5/4 trample. When it dies, seek a permanent with mana value equal to the number of lands you control. So currently when that dies, they'll get a 5-drop to their hand. Pretty good deal. Yeah, 4 mana, 5/4 trample, already not bad. That's a good ability to slap on. Wow, Terror of the Peaks is awesome. Yeah, I'm going to be relying on my Fearsome Whelp to let me do a pretty explosive play with that next turn. If Fearsome Whelp gets to stick around. Then next turn, we should be able to cast Terror of the Peaks and then Purifying Dragon, so we can get immediate Terror of the Peaks value for damage onto probably just their face. Just kill them here. They're already pretty low, down to 14. They even had to sacrifice the land, and we've got a lot of power in the sky. So if they can't, like, Wrath here, I think we might just have it. Oh, that's a Wrath. There you go. Oh, wait. It's only a Wrath for small things. Some kind of alchemy Wrath I haven't seen before. Sell our artifacts and creatures and stuff. All right. Yeah, we get there, I think. Pretty sure we get there. Let's see. No, they go down to 6, and we don't have the cost reduction anymore, so we can't play anything after the Terror of the Peaks. So yeah, we don't get there. Do we still just play Terror of the Peaks? I feel like we probably do. Probably do. That sets up for really explosive stuff next turn, although I guess so does Lathliss. Yeah, we can go Lathliss. Keep all the cheaper dragons in our hand. Like, they're still dead if they don't remove our whole board. Alright, and that's going to be game. Very quick one for the dragons. Another game here, we're going to be against Toxtrol the Corrosive, which is a big old slug that's going to keep putting -1/-1 counters on our whole field until they all die, and when they do, they spit out more slugs for each creature we have that dies. And they can sack those slugs to draw a card. So Toxtrol, a really controlling kind of commander that's just going to keep whittling down our board. So we're very much going to want to try to outrace this deck here. So it's all going to depend on what the support they have for it is in Dimir. If it's a pretty standard Dimir control deck with a lot of counter spells and removal spells, then I am not liking our prospects here. These kind of decks can be very controlling. Ooh, Blood Artist. Alright, more of a synergy-focused kind of combo-y deck. Gonna combo with those slug tokens, hopefully. That's a vampire, not a human, unfortunately, so we can't opportunistic dragon that. Would I rather play a creature than Sarkhan? I think I can just play Sarkhan. I mean, they don't have any power on the board. I guess they could have Spell Pierce here for 1. Looks like no Spell Pierce. I'll go ahead and make our dragons cheaper here. Could kill the Blood Artist. I've got other ways to do that, and it's not that important right now all by its lonesome, especially since it doesn't damage Sarkhan by itself. Alright, so 4 mana here, could be 5 mana now. We have enough to play Leyline Tyrant plus a 2 mana dragon if we reduce costs, so let's go ahead and just reduce costs again. Again, not particularly worried about this Blood Artist right now. Will definitely be good in the future. Actually, I'm going to Opportunistic Dragon now to keep them away from Toxtrol mana. Seal that Arcane Signet. slow them down here. Yeah, Opportunistic Dragon's way better than Maniform Hellkite here. And there's the most niche synergy in the world here, where while whatever Opportunistic Dragon steals loses all of its abilities, we could still tap this to improvise our free jam Regent if we draw into that, which is kind of hilarious. So no dragons to reduce the cost of, so we kill Blood Artist or we conjure a Shivan Dragon here. I think I just want to conjure a Shivan Dragon, but I can do that main phase too. We could just play Lathliss. Although I kind of like playing it safe and just holding up some nonsense here. Let's just see what happens when we attack. If I play it too safe and too slow, that just gives our opponent more time to draw into wrath effects to really get us, so I feel like I probably should put some dragon on the board. I'll put a Maniform Hellkite down so I can still hold up Slaying Fire or Glorious End. But I think I'm not going to tap out for Lathliss currently. So, yeah, pass. And I just realized something about Sark, and I've never noticed before. I haven't played with this card much. Because it gives you the ability to pay X rather than its mana value, even in a mono red deck, you could keep making them cheaper and get it to the point where your dragons cost 0, because you just choose the alternate cost. And then instead of costing double red, it would cost 2 generic, but the 2 generic would be getting reduced by 3 if I've used the ability 3 times, which means it would cost 1 mana total. So if I use it 4 times, it would cost you 0 mana. That's insane. I didn't even know. I just thought that was like for helping cast multicolor dragons, but now that I think of it, that's a really neat ability. Really powerful stuff. 12, 16 damage if I Slaying Fire them here. Present lethal if we... No, Sarkhan can't deal damage to their face, unfortunately. Present lethal with a Guardian Idol, I guess, and they're forced to chump with Blood Artist. It's like kind of a thing. I forgot about Maniform Hellkite's ability. So then, yeah, we definitely have, we definitely present lethal there. I think we would still Slaying Fire during their turn, so we have more mana up during ours for whatever we draw, but then we would like Glorious End and animate Guardian Idol. And with Glorious End, we'd have another 3/3 flyer haste, Guardian Idol, another 2/2 attacking. Send it all in. Oh wait, no, we wouldn't Glorious End during our... Oh my god. That would have been hilarious if they passed to us and I Glorious Ended during our turn, because it ends the turn. I always treat this card as just take an extra turn, and if you don't win by the end of that turn, then you lose. That's not what it is. We'd have to Glorious End during their turn, so... yeah, we probably should have held on to Slaying Fire until our turn then, because of Maniform Hellkite's ability. But either way, attack for 16 in the sky, attack with Guardian Idol on the ground. They are forced to lose their Blood Artist to the Guardian Idol. The Dragon's deck just comes in too quickly for the Toxrill control deck there. Opportunist Dragon doing a ton of work, stealing the Arcane Signet for sure. This round we have the Dragon Mirror match. 5-color dragons, Tiamat versus mono red dragons, Lathliss. I absolutely love this match here, and I'm even going to keep this hand. It looks a little awkward, just tons of mana and not much to do, but Herald's Horn really helps with that. Anytime we have a dragon on top of our library, we reveal it and draw it, so that is going to keep us fueled with a lot of stuff to do, potentially. That's what I would hope. So this is definitely a matchup where we're going to try to outpace our opponent. Since they're a 5-color deck, there's going to be a lot of setup cost, going to be a lot comes into play tapped lands like Triomes and Shock lands. Three mana now from our opponent. Could be a Chromatic Lantern, could be a lot of different ramp spells here. They even have double red thanks to this Triome to be able to cast a Dragon Speaker Shaman of their own, reduce their costs by 2. Draconic Disciple it is. Pretty nice for the multicolored dragon decks. And we are just going to immediately blow that up before it goes back to their turn. I love that I could choose my Dragon Egg to do 0 damage if I want. Deal damage equal to the power. That would be pretty funny. But yeah, we're going to blow that up to slow down their mana here so they can't just go untapped land Tiamat. Or actually, no, Tiamat costs 7, not 5. I always forget. It's kind of weird. They slap a 2 generic onto it. But yeah, 7 mana, 7/7 flyer. Makes a lot of sense. Really powerful enter the battlefield effect too. But yeah, keep them off a 5 mana card there. Uh-oh, Fires of Invention's an incredible card for 5 color decks. This makes it so you can just cast 2 spells per turn. And you cast them for free. But you can only cast spells equal to the mana you have. That much or less. So they could cast, with Fires of Invention, since they cast it that turn, they can only cast 1 more spell, so they cast Dragon Speaker Shaman for free. Next turn, they play a land, they get to go 5-drop, 5-drop, and just do it for free. Don't care about the color restrictions, so Fires of Invention is pretty threatening. Pretty spooky, I would say. It's a super high pick in Cube, in my opinion, because it's just so good in the 5 color kind of decks. I think they might have removed it in the most recent Cube. I don't remember it being in there. Maybe I just never saw it. But I definitely drafted that a lot last summer. It was always sweet. So Tiamat is going ham here. Pull out 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat. If one of them costs 5 or less, they'll cast that one right now off of this Fires of Invention. Yeah, so a gold spend dragon or a nickel bolas here would be big. Niv Mizzet would be huge too. Draw a bunch more cards. Yeah, Fires of Invention, Tiamat combo here. And unfortunately, we got really punished for our hand. We just hit a bunch more mana. Did not draw anything else to play. So, it's not looking good for our hero, the Dragon Queen here. Don't have the mana to play Glorybringer if I cast Vanquisher's Banner first, unfortunately. And Glorybringer's not even that great here. I mean, we spit out another token, which is good. We do have the Fire Breathing mana to Fire Breathe at 1 time to make it 5 power. Probably still just supposed to slam down Glorybringer. Just get that token. But yeah, like, what do? We attack, exert, shoot one of these for 4, and then they just block with the other one, and then I Fire Breathe once and it only has 5 power, and it dies without killing anything. I guess Lathliss could potentially trade off into either one of these if we just attack in. But I think they just block with the Mizzet there and just go off. I don't know what we can do here. They have Fires of Invention and all these dragons in hand. They're going to be doing 2 of these per turn. We're going to be doing 0. I think it's just over. I don't even know what's right here, but it's probably not attacking in when they have like 7 more cards to play. Probably don't want to trade off our creatures super willy-nilly here. Just like hope that they leave the shields down at some point. Maybe we just Fire Breathe a boatload with Lathliss out of nowhere. Well, that seems pretty unlikely. I guess we trade our token up into Niv Mizzet here. It's not the worst. Down to 16. A braid. Wow, their stuff is way too big for a braid at this point. Yep, I think that's just going to be it here for me. They still have so much going on. That's a matchup we really need to play a super aggressive hand. I probably should have mulliganed more aggressively, seeing that they were playing Tiamat, knowing that we could really punish them in the early game. We probably just mulligan and try to get a hand that that has a lot of early game plays rather than the one that potentially draws a lot of cards throughout with that nice tribal Herald's Horn. Just not really a matchup where we're trying to go for late game Herald's Horn value. So should have mulled there. But a really cool deck from our opponent. This next round here, we're going to be against Yawgmoth Thran Physician. This is an Aristocrats style deck, a deck focused around sacrificing a lot of cards. Very powerful commander, whittles down our field, making them smaller, and draws them cards off a free sack outlet. This hand I'm very happy to keep. We have mana acceleration this time, as well as a great dragon to ramp into the gold span dragon. We've got interaction with that slaying fire. Really quite like this hand. Again, it's not a super fast hand here, but it's certainly much less likely to flood out than our last hand was. I don't think I want to stomp a Shambling Ghast here. Let's just get our icon out on dragons. Now we've even got a dragon card draw engine at the ready. Dragon Hatchling is the draw, but we do have gold span dragon mana. So we'll get that right out here. Get our token, hit for 5, when we can spend that treasure token on a stomp if we need it. And if we don't, we keep that mana for next turn to be able to cast Lathliss into Dragon Hatchling to get a 5/5 dragon nice and cheap. So here's Yawgmoth, which is pretty good, but we're going to have an absolutely explosive play next turn that will hopefully be even better. Unfortunately, we didn't hit a land, so we actually won't have that play that I wanted to do. Had we hit a land here, we get to go Lathliss into Dragon Hatchling. I guess we still do that with another treasure from Goldspan. We just have to do it main phase 2. Yeah, that's all good with me. Main phase 2, we'll do our explosive play. Probably when we should have been doing it anyway. So here's our Lathliss. And let's go ahead and get another 5/5 dragon for only 2 mana, shall we? Super nice, and they're down to 15 here. They have Yawgmoth out, so if they pull off some insane combos, they'll be good. But it's really looking like they're going to need a Wrath. Not super familiar with the black Wraths available on Arena. Most of them that I can think of are cards like Languish that are like -4/-4. Cards like... Ooh, yeah, they might be trying to set up for Languish here. They make Goldspan Dragon weaker. Now it's 4 toughness. Yeah, there's other ones like Massacre Worm, -2/-2. They go for Liliana here. I believe that's game. I don't think Liliana can save them here. Can shoot our commander, but we still have 10 plus fire breathing. Yeah, we still win. Still have lethal. And there's the concession from our opponent. Really explosive play there, being able to get Lathliss out and then cast such a cheap just 2 mana dragon. So we just spit out 11 power on that one turn, even if you don't take into account the +1/+1 the Icon of Ancestry was giving. Looks like this game we're against Lathliss, God of Destiny. Not a commander you see a ton, at least I haven't. Very interesting one too. A lot of different ways to build this. It does a lot of graveyard hate. It does some mana ramp potentially and some life drain potentially. It's also an enchantment commander, so could be some form of Enchantress deck. Really going to be interesting to see what our opponent's doing here. So this hand has early game plays, but we don't really have a way to make it to big mana, so I'm going to take the free mulligan here. We've seen in other rounds how important it is to get to our high mana cost. We're always trying to hit that 6 for Lathliss at the bare minimum. And this hand, I think I might have to mulligan this as well. We don't have any cheap legendaries to play with Moxhammer. We do have the Sarkhan, so the Moxhammer will be mana by turn 4, but we don't know that we're going to make it to 4 mana. We don't have a lot to do till then, so I'm going to mulligan again down to 6 here. And this is a little more like it. I'm going to go ahead and keep this. I think Vanquisher's Banner is going to be too slow. And now we've got a mana accelerant plus a nice mid-game dragon to play. And it should not be impossible to make it to Lathliss this game. So we'll see what's up with our opponent's deck here. Alright, I'm still very interested to see. Gallia doesn't tell me a whole lot more about their deck. Turn 3 Town Razor Tyrant's going to be quite nice here. I mean, Yeah, Gallia is a little hasty 2/2, so it could just be like a green-red monsters kind of deck. It could be just Theros stuff. It could be they just like Theros a lot, so they're using a lot of Theros Beyond Death cards. That would be cool too. Just a flavorful Theros deck. That would be really cool. Unfortunately, we are just gonna curve out on them like an Alchemy Dragons deck here. Just super rude stuff from Mono Red Dragons. It's one of the things I like so much about Mono Red Dragons as a whole is it's just like, it's such a cool Timmy sort of archetype where it's like, yeah, I'm going to play a bunch of big flying dragons and just get in, while at the same time being like super competitively viable. Because so many of the dragons on Arena are just so good, so aggressively costed, like Glorybringer, like Townraiser Tyrant. So our opponent plays the Akroan War here, so it very well could just be our opponent just loves Theros. Which is really cool. Wow, yeah, this is pretty bad. Akroan War is a really big deal. I think we might have to just Chaos Warp that Akroan War and hope they don't hit something good off the top. I think that's what I'm going to do here. Alright, they get a land off of it. Nice. Thank you, Chaos Warp. Get our dragon back. They keep the land around, so take a couple more, but Kloth is going to gain it right back. With their ability to drain us for 2 and a big old Quartz Wood Crasher now, so if they hit us with Tramplers, they're spitting out more tokens. It's super uncool. We're down to 7, facing a real big Trampler from them now. Play Lathliss to try to block Quartz Wood Crasher. If they have any Treason-style effects, they'll win on the spot. I guess I could attack with just one of my dragons here and hold this back to block the Crasher, and then even if they blow it up, we can still block there. But then I guess we still die. If they blow up one of our creatures, we die either way, because they'd blow up Lathliss, and then I could block 4 damage of the trample, but I still get trampled for 2 plus take this 6. I still take 8 if they have 1 removal spell. So I think we just go in here, see if they have the 1 removal spell. I guess we die to burn as well this way. And it looks like they're going to have the removal, slap a Flame Blessed Bolt onto Lathliss, then sack the land, then spend the rest of their mana to finish Lathliss off and attack for lethal. Oh, they had... I didn't even know they had a non-land card in their graveyard. I thought it was all lands. Well, then they had lethal with that burn, but it wouldn't have mattered even if I noticed, because they had Questing Beast as well. So even had I noticed, I could have stopped 4 more damage, because I was still going to attack with 1 creature. But because they played a Questing Beast as well, we still go to -3 there. Really nice, just Gruul aggro beats from our opponent. Next round here, playing against Lysa, Forgotten Archangel. Really cool card. Whenever their creatures die, they put them back into their hand. Whenever ours die, they get exiled. So could be a lot of good enter the battlefield and death triggers from our opponent's deck. And just recurring them by having their creatures trade off all the time or get sacrificed. Like a Selfless Savior there. Really good when you can loop it every single turn with Lysa. We've got our turn 2 Metallic Mimic on dragons, so every dragon we play is going to be a little bigger. Yeah, there we go, exactly what I was expecting here. We're going to see a lot of enter the battlefield and death triggers. Sacrifice triggers on Selfless Savior, a death trigger on Serrated Scorpion to keep looping that. I guess we haven't seen any enter the battlefield triggers yet, but I'd expect it. So Scavenger Grounds from our opponents, so a lot of graveyard hate. Not only does their commander hate graveyards, their land base does as well. Luckily for us, though, that's non-basic land, so we can go ahead and Townraiser Tyrant that, but I'm almost a little higher on Opportunistic Dragon to steal their Arcane Signet. Because if we Townraiser Tyrant the Scavenger Grounds, sure, we'll probably get in for some extra damage, but we don't get rid of their mana. This way, we definitely get rid of their mana for at least a turn here. Keep them off of Lysa. Opportunistic Dragon is sick. I 100% 100% recommend throwing Opportunistic Dragon into like every red deck you have, because it's like it needs to get removed, or it's like always blowing up an Arcane Signet in every matchup we've had it, something like that. So here's Lisa doing her thing, being really annoying for a dragon deck to try to hit through, because she's also a 4/5 flying lifelinker, which is super rough for us. But here's a 5/5 flyer to hopefully help out. Unfortunately, now they have enough mana, they can just sacrifice the grounds. Yep. And now with Lysa combos, they just gain 4 every turn. We can't stop that. Or they can just give her Indestructible, wrath the board, put their entire hand, their entire board state back into their hand off of her abilities. That's the other thing that these Lysa decks can do. They can just run a million wrath effects, and they're always one-sided. That is brutal. That's going to be game. Lysa into a Wrath, always going to be nuts, but with an Indestructible card too, unstoppable. Here we are now against Xanathar Guild Kingpin. They're going to be casting our own cards against us. Pretty annoying commander. We're just going to try to outrace it, and this is a hand that can definitely attempt to do that. Turn 2 Magda to spit out treasure tokens. We have a Castle Embreth to buff our field when we're out of things to do. We've got an Ember Cleave to try to find that kill out of nowhere. Definitely going for it this game. Going for the quick kill before Xanathar comes out and starts casting our library. So they're also a blue-black snow deck here. All snow sources so far. I'll offer the trade with Magda. We get a treasure token guaranteed, and we stop any of this Spirit's wild abilities from going off. Which is really nice, because that that Spirit would have been a... do I want to play a formatted dragon here? I think I do. That Spirit would have been a 2/3 really soon, and then we couldn't attack with Magda anyway. That's what I was trying to say. But I'm going to crack the treasure right now, so we play a 4-drop dragon turn 3, and then play a 4-drop dragon turn 4.
Meditate and prepare.
Fatal Push. Annoying, but it doesn't work unless something died that turn. So maybe our dragons won't die. As much as I love stopping them from drawing cards, because they have Xanathar on 6, a little apt to just hit them in the face here. Because I am still just straight trying to kill them before they play Xanathar. I guess, you know, we could still have a pretty good argument for attacking Narset, because Xanathar's the kind of card, they don't cast the spells for free, so whenever they tap out for Xanathar, they're going to need to be in a really good position to do that, because otherwise it's just a 5/6 on the ground. And then we just attack them with all our flyers and kill them anyway. So we should probably be playing this as if they didn't really have a commander. So I probably should have attacked Narset. Because yeah, it's a big cost to spend their whole turn putting just a 5/6 on the ground down. Sure, it goes off their next turn, but not until then. It doesn't have basically any immediate impact against a deck of nothing but flyers. See what our opponent wants to do here. Their Fatal Push won't work. They need to do something else. If they have like an Infernal Grasp, some kind of 2-mana removal in hand, they can blow up both our creatures for only 2 of their cards, and they've drawn more than us, so it does put them in kind of a winning position to go down that route. So I highly hope they don't. Yeah. Looks like they do not have just like 2-mana destroy a creature removal, which is nice. So I didn't go for the Ember Cleave there, because I didn't want to get like massively blown out by the removal. But I will definitely go for the Ember Cleave next turn. Plus, we have a good backup plan that turn of just like Cold Steel Heart, hold up Bone Crusher Giant. Next turn, now that we've used our Cold Steel Heart and we'll have used our Stomp, we'll just Ember Cleave next turn because we've got really no other plan. And that'll still present the lethal. Heartless Act, alright, well they still take 3. But now they get to blow up Moonveil Regent without taking any damage with the Fatal Push. Not gonna Fatal Push the Regent. Forgot to use my Stomp on their face. We get a hit for 4 then. Oh, Fatal Push is only when one of their cards died. Another permanent you control left the battlefield. Okay, well then I don't even know what I was worried about. Alright, well now we can't cast Embercleave anyway, so I guess we're still just holding up our Stomp. Had I stomped during their end step, then I would just cast our 4-3 here this turn. But this is fine too. It's not that bad that I just totally blanked on using Stomp earlier. So they're at 3 life. They need a way to kill this Moonveil Regent. And I guess they just don't have it. Fatal Push. Just being really sad for our opponent not having any targets that whole game. Staring at those 4 power, 4 mana dragons. So alright. Alright, we're on the play here. That Signet on 2 Dragon Speaker Shaman makes this pretty much a snap keep to me. This is one of the best cards in the whole deck. Really makes it operate incredibly well if your opponent doesn't have the removal for it as soon as you drop it. We're playing against Jadar, which is an absurd commander. I did a Jadar video the moment Jadar came out pretty much. It's just wild the things you can do. You just run Jadar in your deck and then play every single thing that benefits off of sacrificing creatures. And just all of those cards are just always active once you do that. Should put a 4 power flyer down right now, but I could also play Dragon Speaker Shaman so I could put 2 out next turn. But I guess if I'm putting 2 out next turn, that's the same as if I put 1 out now and 1 out next turn. Oh no. Choices. I'll play a flyer right now. Theoretically, if our opponent doesn't have removal, we get to play Dragon Speaker Shaman, then next turn play 2 dragons, which is the equivalent of if we play a dragon right now, then a dragon next turn. And then the turn after that is where we really profit from it, because then we play 2 dragons the turn after. The only issue is I would expect Jadar decks to be running a ton of removal. Especially that can kill like a little 2/2. And then it's like a way slower start. But they haven't used a removal spell on these big dragons, so they probably didn't have one for Dragon Speaker Shaman. So we could have had a Dragon Speaker Shaman plus both these 2 dragons out at this time. Our opponent wouldn't have taken 4 yet, but then our next turn play is a lot better. Alright, so here comes a Deadly Dispute. Sack that Decayed token to draw 2 cards and get a treasure. The Town Razor Tyrant is going to deal 2 damage to them, because they keep that Phyrexian Tower around. Ooh, Opportunistic Dragon would be pretty sick in this matchup. If they tap out of their sacrifice outlet, like a Phyrexian Tower, so they can't instant speed sack Jadar, I could just take Jadar from them, because Jadar is a human. Acquisitions Expert, they get to make us discard one of these 2 cards that I have already basically decided I'm not playing. Because I'm still going to be just casting 4 mana dragons every turn. So they'll discard the Dragon Master Outcast. This is pretty fine for us. We're still 3 lands away from that doing anything. But them discarding Dragon Speaker Shaman would also be fine with us. And I think they picked right, because it probably would have been preferable to keep Dragon Master Outcast, because if we hit a land, we get to play an Outcast plus a 4-drop flyer. Although, I guess if we hit a land, we get to play Dragon Speaker Shaman and a 4-drop flyer, because then that 4-drop flyer is a 2-drop flyer instead. Alright, so a bunch of nonsense on the ground. We still attack in the sky for 8 damage here. I think we just play Varix. And if Manaform Hellkite is still around next turn, then we are presenting well over lethal. Because we're presenting 12 damage on the board, and casting Sarkon is going to put a 4/4 flyer out, thanks to Manaform Hellkite's ability. So we'll be attacking for 16 next turn if they can't kill anything. Ooh, Massacre Girl is going to kill absolutely everything, as she tends to do. So that's going to be pretty big. The Wrath here to survive for now, but we do have a Haster, the Skyship Stalker. That fire breathes next turn for a ton of damage too. Actually, the fire breathing ability is lethal if they tap out. If they don't tap out, I don't know if I want to do it. Looks like removal here though. Yeah, Spark Harvest, sack the Dissenter to kill that. So, not even an option to consider. Thunderbreak Regent's great, but we'll go Dragon Speaker into it, just to get more on the board. Didn't want to Dragon Speaker into the Skyship Stalker, because then we wouldn't be attacking with haste. We wouldn't have that additional 1 red up to haste things out, and I am so happy that we went for the double spell there, so we have a 2/2 to sack instead of our big flyer. So Sarkon doesn't have any way to add extra damage, right? Yeah, just damages creatures. Doesn't do any fire breathing, so we hit for 4. No way to kill them here. If we play Sarkon, make Leyline Tyrant cheaper, it still costs 3 and we only have 1 up. So I think we just play Leyline Tyrant here. Alright, they need 2 removal spells. And if they're targeted removal spells, actually, Thunderbreak Regent just shoots them for 3. On the first one they use, because they'd use 1 on the Regent and then 1 on the Tyrant. So Regent would shoot them for 3, and then when Tyrant dies, we'd spend the 1 red and shoot them for the final 1 damage. So even 2 targeted removal spells doesn't do it. They need a Wrath, or the kind of removal like Plague Crafter, where we have to sacrifice something. That would work. Definitely loving Thunderbreak Regent and Leyline Tyrant on this board.
I will show you what happens.
Alright, that's some Reach Spiders, which is a thing. We'll get that mana to our Leyline Tyrant's ability. We will attack both. Actually, we play Sarkon, blow up 1 Reach creature, attack both, and we hit for 4, because they've got 1 blocker. Yep, and there is the concession. Well, that is going to end today's video. I hope you all enjoyed watching this Lathliss deck as much as I enjoyed playing it. This was a super fun deck. This is exactly my cup of tea, just casting a bunch of dragons, smashing in the sky. We've got a lot of my favorite just dumb red cards like Embercleave in here. The Town Razor Tyrant, one of my favorites. And Opportunistic Dragon actually has quickly become one of my favorites in Historic Brawl. The ability to shut off those arcane signets is huge, and there are a lot of random humans as well. So Opportunistic Dragon being a 4-mana 4/3 flyer with almost like a Banishing Light or Oblivion Ring attached to it. Super good. Super great card. So that's been a lot of fun. But that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoy these videos and you want to see more, just stick around on the channel. You can like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send more of these videos your way. In the near future, we have Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. That is this Thursday. We'll have a video up as soon as possible, as well as I will be live streaming on the Twitch channel in the description below for quite some time on launch day. But other than that, thank you all once again for watching, and I'll see you soon for some more Magic Arena.